Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And tonight's show, I'm pleased to have the co-offensive player of the week. I had one player on from Ram who had 8 touchdowns. Now, this player didn't get 8, but he did quite a bit to kind of do his thing, both throwing the football, but also running the football. He's a sophomore at Wethersfield, a brainiac, and also committed to Uconn. So you'll be seeing him in a couple of years catching for, Coach Penders and Coach Mack, the pitching coach. Camden Righi. Camden, thanks so much for being able to come on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for bringing me on. It's a pleasure.
Being able to, when you sent me over your bio, obviously the GPA really stuck out to me. I mean, between you and the kid from Ram, it's like I'm not smart enough to talk to you guys, first off. And then second, the story of how you got to the quarterback position is an interesting one. So I don't want to say it because you went through it. Talk to me about last year and what led you to being the QB1.
Yeah, so I started my eighth grade year. My eighth grade year was my first time playing football. I kind of tried out for quarterback, but they just put me into receiver. And then Coach McKinnon was my social studies teacher. He said that he's going to want me as a quarterback in the upcoming years. But when I went to the high school as a freshman, I was a freshman quarterback, but got pulled up to varsity to play receiver.
Mhm.
Then I was starting receiver all through my freshman year on varsity. And then the last game, our quarterback was injured for it, and it was against our rival Newington. And it was the biggest game of the year, but so I had to go play quarterback for it. We ended up losing, but I guess I did well enough to be named starting quarterback for the upcoming year. And also, the other kid decided he didn't want to play football anymore. So, kind of cleared all the other options. So, they were stuck with me.
So when I think about all of that, I mean, to go from, I've talked to various players who tell me going from left tackle to left guard or going from left tackle to right guard is like night and day. It's so different. For you to go from wide receiver to quarterback, I mean, what kind of adjustment that quickly for you when that
Yeah.
happened?
Well, I had been taking a few reps, but filling the quarterback position is very, very difficult. But my coaches make it very simple for me. They do their best to keep everything as simple but as effective as possible.
Mhm.
And I'd say they do a great job coaching me on it. Um, Over the off season, just watching things, watching football in general, just learning things from like watching Tom Brady or anyone, just learning always.
Well, it
Uh,
helps when you're watching the film on guys who can. I mean, Tom Brady's been doing it for a long time. He's got enough rings, and I don't need to say anything more about him. But
yeah.
when you think about just the amount of time that you had to even get to the point where they felt comfortable enough with you coming into this season, that says a lot about kind of your work ethic, but also what you showed for the time that you had before this season.
Yeah. So I'd say one of the biggest things that helped me be a quarterback was just being a catcher. Because being a catcher, I'm the general of the baseball field. So kind of just switching to being quarterback, being the general of the football field.
Mhm.
I kind of had an experience of that already, almost, and it was just a difference of the sport.
No, you mentioned the catching aspect and comparing it to the quarterback position, being the leader, being the captain. And with you being so young, it sounds like to me that they responded and it didn't matter what year you were because of the aura, I guess, around you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my team was definitely in baseball and in football very accepting and very helpful.
Now, as you know, I assume I think what you're over 6 foot, right?
Yeah, I'm 6'3".
Okay, so A, you're not that hard to miss, and second, you're imposing, dude. It's almost like I think of Adley Rutschman with the Orioles. Big dude, played at Oregon State. Guys seem to love throwing to him. He blocks everything in the dirt. He's a great catcher, hence why he was the number one overall pick. And I'm not comparing you to him. I don't want to have that. I don't want to put too much pressure on you. But do you feel like you being a catcher and having that in some ways, without you knowing, prepared you to jump in last year and then obviously be the QB1 this year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Being in that high risk, high reward spot. It definitely prepared me mentally for becoming a quarterback.
So going into the off season, and you really don't have an off season because if you're not playing football, you're playing baseball. So we'll say quote unquote in parentheses the off season. For you, um, how are you able to focus because baseball is what you're going to be playing in a couple years at UConn. How were you able to focus on that, but also make sure you were prepared come the season this year?
So through the winter, I was working both with the football team and the baseball team, weightlifting with the football team, doing baseball stuff on my own, doing the upcoming workouts. And then once baseball season hit, I did maybe one passing league for football, but I kind of stopped playing football through the baseball season just to focus on baseball because I feel like they deserved my focus if I was going to be the starting catcher for them. And then once summer hit, I started doing all the football things as well as baseball too,
Mhm.
with traveling and stuff like that. But doing all the winter workouts and summer workouts, doing all the running stuff every single morning during the summer. And then once we were able to start throwing with the football, because of the rules, you can't throw during the off season with your teammates and stuff. Once we were able to start throwing, just doing that every day with the team.
I did not know that. So you couldn't throw with your teammates up until I did not know that.
Yeah, so if you were at a practice over the off season, you couldn't have a football there, which
Really?
is had to just do running and stuff. You can't practice with football.
Interesting. So it's almost like, maybe pretend like you're throwing an air football. Maybe then they can't get you in trouble for that.
Yeah, I guess that could work.
You didn't technically throw a football, you're just pretending. There's nothing there. Can kind of work around the rules a little bit, kind of like, Bill Belichick. Just get
Yeah,
to that line just to where it's legal, if that makes sense.
tiptoe around it.
Exactly. And we've seen Belichick do it his entire career. Hence why he's got so many rings.
Hmm.
So I just want to go back to, as this season was itching closer rather. Um, what was your mindset? Kind of what was because you were entering your sophomore year, you went through a lot your freshman year. Um, just talk to me about the overall mindset for you.
So I knew I was going to be the quarterback. My coaches had relayed that information to me. Um, and my mindset was kind of just be a beast. I don't know, run over people. That just go as hard as I can and try and get people's respects. And
Mhm.
yeah,
See, now you can't do that in baseball. You can't run people over. Even the catching, you can't do that. They've changed that rule.
yeah,
So that in some ways, it's almost like you take your aggression out all from baseball and put it on football, right?
yeah. All the stress and stuff I got from baseball, I can just let it all out.
Exactly. So if you go 1 for 4, it's not 4 for 4. You're probably mad, and then just wait, keep it in a jar, and then wait until football season, and then away you go. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. So this season, you guys have had a very good season so far. And being in the CCC, there's a lot of teams. I won't name them all, but I've talked to your head coach many times. He's been on this podcast. Great dude, Coach McKinn, love him.
Yeah,
I've told him, and he agrees. The CCC has a lot of very competitive teams, and that goes without saying. Do you feel like being a part of the conference has prepared you in multiple ways? Because if you guys have an opportunity to make the playoffs, there's a strong case that your schedule has prepared you for that run in the playoffs. Does that make sense?
yeah. It makes a lot of sense. We're playing a bunch of great teams. I would say, like Windsor week one, they were ranked top 10 in the state, and we just brought it to them. We were ready, and just having that, playing these great amount of teams. Joel Barlow, um, who we lost to, but we brought it to him. We put up a good fight.
Mhm.
But yeah, playing these good teams, we're gonna face some of them most likely if we make it to the playoffs. When we make it to the playoffs.
Good attitude. When you were, as the weeks are progressing, I mean, it's crazy to say we're already in week 5. I
Yeah,
mean, once the first week goes, it's like the baseball season. As soon as it starts, Snap your finger, it's already playoffs. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like because last week you started late at the quarterback position, this year it's only been a couple games and you're putting up numbers, and I'm not saying you don't know what you're doing, but it's like your ceiling is high. You know what I'm saying? So I almost wonder, and my question to you is there more in the tank? Is there more of Camden Righi that we haven't seen that we will see before season end?
Yeah. We're just gonna keep getting better as a team. Completely. We're continuing to get better as the weeks go on.
Mhm.
Like the first week, I think we could have done so much better against Windsor than we did. And we haven't even really started throwing much yet. And we're just running the ball. And
Mhm.
I think we can bring out a whole nother aspect of our offense. And I don't know how teams are going to be able to respond to it.
For you, what would you say are things that even with the numbers, because a modest person who looks at the numbers would say, "Oh, this kid's great. He doesn't need to work on anything." But when you look deep into it, I'm sure there's things that you are saying, "Oh, I need to work on, my second or third read, or I need to work on maybe being patient." Maybe although last week you rushed for so many yards and touchdowns, you were fine. Is there anything for you that you feel like you could be better at as the season progresses?
I would say one of my main things is being able to throw the ball, obviously,
Mhm.
as the numbers aren't very impressive there. But I think accuracy, choosing which receivers to throw to,
Mhm.
kind of looking at the field, reading safeties and corners and what coverages they're in,
Mhm.
being able to look at that and kind of just decide where I'm gonna go and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Not much experience there. It's only my third year of football, so I'm still learning there.
Mhm.
And also decisions running the ball. Sometimes I run into guys, but there's never gonna be a time where I feel like I'm at the top of my game where there's nothing I can do. I don't think I'll ever get to that point. I don't think anyone ever gets to that point. I think there's always something you can get better at.
Being a baseball player, and this will make sense, having as a pitcher because you're a catcher, having touch on the ball, being able to have the feel, the changeup is always the hardest pitch in high school for a lot of pitchers. A lot of them have great curveballs, changeup's a different story. Um, for you being the quarterback, do you feel like you struggle with the touch of the football as far as being able to place it where you want? Or when you mentioned the accuracy, the velocity, because I'm assuming you throw P's from home plate. So which one of those two would you feel like is the one you need to focus more on?
Definitely the touch of it. I can throw it. I can throw it pretty far, I'd say. I think my last game last year, there's this one play where I think I threw it 60 yards, incomplete, but 60 yards, which I was I was pretty happy about that. And I'd say I throw it pretty hard as well. It's more accuracy, I'd say. I don't hit guys in stride sometimes, and
Mhm.
sometimes I overthrow, underthrow, and yeah, I definitely say it's where I throw it rather than how hard I throw it.
When you look at the field, you've got the bubble screens, then you got the short intermediate passes, and then you've got what you mentioned, the long game, throwing the deep ball.
Mhm.
Which one of those do you feel like you feel the most comfortable with? And which one is it sounds like to me it would maybe the bubble screen that you maybe struggle with a little bit, and the long game is a little bit more comfortable for you. But what says you?
I definitely feel comfortable throwing the long game, letting receivers fly down and just launching it to them. I love
Mhm.
doing stuff like that and giving the receivers a chance to make an amazing play in the ball. I
Mhm.
love watching those kinds of plays. The short little slant routes and hitches, those are a little tough for me. Just like I feel like it's either a perfect throw or it's a terrible throw with those kind of passes. So those are always tough. The little bubble screens,
Mhm.
um, getting the nice little touch on it, just
Mhm.
kind of getting it to the running back or receiver. That sometimes is a little tough for me. I like to throw the ball hard, never soft. So if I don't place it perfectly, it's most likely incomplete.
But at the same time, though, and like you said, you'll work on it. You'll find
Yeah.
ways to be able to get that. So I think you'll be fine with that. Looking at the game that you previously just had, hence why you're here. Did you know that you were putting up the numbers as you were, or was it where you weren't even focusing on that until after the game was over?
I I couldn't have told you I ran for that many yards. I had no idea. I thought maybe like 100 yards, which was what I was pretty much averaging throughout the three previous games. But yeah, no, that surprised me a lot that I was near 200 yards. I don't focus on stuff like that really. I kind of just focus on winning the game and celebrating my other teammates. Like when Joe Vaughn ran 60 something yards for that touchdown, I thought that was the most amazing thing ever. He broke like 5 tackles and then just outran everyone.
What was McKinnon doing when that happened? Was he going nuts?
Going nuts. He's always going nuts. He loves it.
Yeah, McKinnon loves, if I know anything, he loves offensive line play because he likes the hogs and he loves when dudes break tackles.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Camden, great to be able to have you on. I really do appreciate it. Just a couple more questions before I let you go. As far as the rest of the season goes, like I said, we're close to the midway point. Um, where would you say the team is at right now as far as the ceiling, as far as the highest potential they could be? Do you feel like there's still a lot in the tank, just like for you? Is there a lot in the tank left of this team going forward?
I really do believe we have a lot more that we can improve on. There's a lot of just tiny mistakes that kill us. And I think if we get rid of those tiny little mistakes, we're
Mhm.
gonna be beatable.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams I think that are in that same boat where they feel like they're that close to being up here, but like you said, it's the little things. The little things, special teams is huge. I mean, we saw that with Berlin kicking what could have been good from 60 yards, it looked like, to beat Bloomfield.
Yeah.
No, little stuff like that, tackling, obviously penalties. I've seen that the last couple weeks in the NVL. I mean, I was doing one game where the quarterback wasn't doing anything other than going hut hut, and he was drawing guys off sides like crazy because they were so antsy. He was changing the cadence, you know. But it's just one of those things. But before I let you go, Camden, rather, one last question. Uh, Now, obviously, you're going to UConn to play baseball, and the football program got a big time win, against Fresno State, and
Yeah.
that was huge for the program for the football side. Um, what happens if Jim Moore kind of sees your progression? You're a senior. Is Penders going to be like, no, 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 he's my guy, get away? Like, is there potential of you potentially doing two sports, or is baseball just the one?
Right now for me, baseball is just the one. When I was talking with Jim Penders, I asked, "Are you fine with me playing football?" And he said, "I would love you to play football. I love you playing other sports. I love for you to get as many games with a scoreboard as you can just to get that mental aspect of trying to win games." He loves having those guys who just want to win and want to compete.
Mhm.
And that's what I've gotten from Jim Pender so far. So he's all fine with me playing football as far as I'm concerned.
Well, hey, you know what? Hopefully, in a couple years, Coach Moore is going to be knocking on the door and be like, "You want to come over and play football too?" That'd be awesome, dude. That'd be cool to be able to see you play two sports, especially Division 1 for baseball and then Division 1 for football as well. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be crazy.
But Camden, thanks so much for being able to come on. I really do appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Congratulations on being named the offensive player of the week, and best of luck the rest of this season. Hopefully, there's brighter things to come for you and the program.
Thank you very much.
No problem. That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm Marjorie. Find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.